Out of the roughly 250 vegan safer foods I have researched that are likely to be beneficial when included in a diet for inflammatory bowel disease, only 4 have been shown to actually improve IBD symptoms when you are having a flare. Today, I will go over what you need to know about those top food items, give you general guidelines to follow, highlight a few warning areas, and provide the recommended portion size limits for each of them. Have you or someone that you care about been diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease? Or you may have heard about one of the 2 types of IBD, Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. Are you in the middle of a flare? Have you been told conflicting information about what to eat? Or has a medical professional told you that it doesn't matter what you eat because IBD is not a lifestyle disease, it is an autoimmune disorder? Did this confuse you? I have been exactly where you are. I am neither a doctor nor a nutritionist. I'm a patient that was given a diagnosis and a few sentences and then sent home from the hospital with very little information about what had just turned my world upside down, and none of it included diet or nutrition. The most important thing that I want you to hear right now is that you are not alone. Today, I will share with you what I learned from my own research after a gastroenterologist gave me the initial diagnosis of Crohn's disease. I'm no stranger to research. I'm a scientist in a completely different field. I've been referred to as a nerd with geekish tendencies. But I was left to do my own research because I had no access to a nutritionist with an understanding of IBD. In my area, the only nutritionists that I found initially were specialized in diabetes. Perhaps a product of living in Florida with a very large retirement community. Or maybe it was a pure profit decision to focus on a more common disease. Who knows? Over the course of the last year, I've compiled a ton of research on IBD, where most of it has centered around diet and nutrition. If I was left in the dark from the beginning, I imagine that you could be in that same place. Today, I'm going to shine the light on critical information about IBD that you need to have agency for your health care so that you can make informed decisions about your diet and nutrition needs. The top 4 foods that can improve IBD symptoms during a flare. Not all foods are created equal. When it comes to inflammatory bowel disease, this is especially important to understand. A few of the things that surprised me at the beginning of my research were this. Research surprise number 1. In the United States, 71% of medical degrees do not require any classes on nutrition. For those medical schools that do provide it, only 21 hours in the first year of med school is required, and the majority of that time is spent on the biochemistry of food and not diet or nutrition. Research surprise number 2. Some foods increase inflammation across the entire body, while others seem to only affect certain systems like the GI tract. Therefore, it is only logical to me to avoid those inflammatory foods, especially during a flare. Research surprise number 3. Some foods are inflammatory neutral, where they don't appear to impact levels of inflammation, but are still quite important to include in the diet from a nutritional perspective. Research surprise number 4. Only a handful of foods can actually improve IBD symptoms during a flare. There are 4 important foods that can help improve IBD symptoms when you are in the middle of a flare. The foods that can reduce inflammation and actually help to improve IBD symptoms during a flare include safer food item number 1, bananas. A, green bananas. You'll want to limit a single portion size to 1 banana or 100 grams. B, ripe bananas. You'll want to limit a single portion size to 1/3 of a banana or 35 grams due to the high oligofructans found in ripe bananas. I will create a separate segment on FODMAPs, what they are, why they're important to understand for diet related to IBD flares, where they have limitations, and what the most recent research is telling us. So be on the lookout for that content. Safer food item number 2, jicama. Jicama is a root vegetable. You can usually find this at a health food store or a local Asian market. It happens to also have a low glycemic index, if that is something that you have to pay attention to. Jicama is one of the few vegetables that are likely tolerated raw when you have IBD. This is because the water content is similar to that of watercress. However, you should eat jicama cooked until you know for sure that you can tolerate it raw. To prepare jicama, you want to peel it, then shred it or cube it, the inner white part of the root vegetable. You'll want to limit a single portion size to 1/2 cup or 75 grams of jicama. Safer food item number 3, rice. Not all rice varieties are created equal. There are some types like long grain rice that your body cannot digest properly when you have IBD. There are a lot of nuances to which types of rice are beneficial versus which ones could cause you a lot of problems. I'll create a separate segment on rice, which varieties help to improve IBD symptoms during a flare, why they are important to understand for diet related to IBD flares, and what the most recent research is telling us. So be on the lookout for that content as well. So for right now, I will give you the 2 easiest varieties to access. You can usually find both of these at a regular grocery store, but they are definitely available from a health food store or local Asian market. A, short grain Valencia rice. This variety is typically used to make risotto. B, short grain Japanese sweet rice. Although it is a white rice, it has been shown to reduce inflammation. As a bonus, it also increases bone density and improves heart health. You will want to limit a single portion size to 1/2 cup or 190 grams of cooked rice. Safer food item number 4, vegan yogurt. As the only processed food on this list, where the other items are single ingredient foods, be aware of the ingredients in the yogurt you pick, because they can make the difference between the yogurt helping or hurting your situation. When choosing a vegan yogurt, there are IBD-specific guidelines that you should follow, such as mushroom-free. This is a very interesting finding. Overall, mushrooms have been shown to decrease inflammation. However, upon further research, because of the mannitol found in mushrooms, which is a naturally occurring sugar alcohol that is poorly absorbed and can trigger IBD symptoms, they can actually increase gut inflammation. In other words, mushrooms can cause inflammation within your intestines. And as a side note, if you have narrowing of your intestines due to IBD scar tissue, referred to as strictures, you will definitely want to avoid mushrooms. Next, non-dairy, lactose-free. This is because lactose increases inflammation, so you will want to stay away from yogurt made from cow's milk, goat's milk, or sheep's milk. Here, your best option is to pick yogurt made from coconut milk. Next, unsweetened. This is because sugar alcohols can trigger IBD symptoms. Be sure not to add any honey to the yogurt because it too can trigger IBD symptoms. And don't forget that because honey is produced by bees, it is technically not vegan. Remember, the goal here at IBD Vegan is to put important information in front of you, primarily science-backed information, because I'm a nerd that way, and I believe in the scientific method as a way to better understand everything around us. The intention is to give you the critical information about IBD that you need to have agency for your health care so that you can make informed decisions about your diet and nutrition needs. When you learn something new here, my suggestion is try it on. If it fits, then incorporate it. If not, reject it and move on. You get to decide what you want to do. Next, low saturated fats. Be very careful to watch for high levels of saturated fats because high saturated fats can trigger IBD symptoms, and that is not what we want. Certain plant-based foods like coconut milk can have very high saturated fats per serving. You see this with most, if not all, of canned coconut milk. So we have to keep that in mind when selecting an appropriate type of yogurt. My general rule of thumb for coconut-based vegan yogurt is this. For a serving size listed on the yogurt container of 3/4 cup or 170 grams, the maximum total fat we want to see is 6 grams, with a max of saturated fat at 5 grams and trans fat at 0 grams. Okay, so once you have selected your mushroom-free, non-dairy, non-lactose, coconut milk-based unsweetened yogurt, you will want to limit a single portion size to a 1/2 cup or 125 grams of vegan yogurt. Here's a tip for you when you're cooking with vegan yogurt. Keep in mind how this translates to the total servings that you're making for a particular dish. Ensure that you stay within the limits of the single portion serving size for the vegan yogurt. For example, if you're making a dish that will serve a total of 4 people, the maximum amount of vegan yogurt that you would want to use for that recipe would be 2 cups or 500 grams. Because once we divide the dish by 4 servings in total, we are back to our single portion size limit of a 1/2 cup or 125 grams of vegan yogurt. So within the roughly 250 vegan safer foods that I have researched that are likely to be beneficial when included in a diet for IBD, only 4 have been shown to actually improve IBD symptoms when you're having a flare. To be clear, that does not mean only eating these 4 foods during a flare. Rather, be deliberate about including them where it makes sense. Because remember, our goal is to eat at least 30 different plants per week to have enough variety in our diet for it to be nutritious for us. And let's face it, since malnutrition is a very real risk when you have IBD, this is something that needs to stay top of mind. This is IBD Vegan. I'm your host, Alexis, and I want you to remember, it is possible to become more educated, resilient, and feel empowered for a better quality of life.